finding your soul work as your soul work until you know what it is. So there's lots of paths, there's lots of techniques, there's lots of things. But the first thing I would suggest to people is put aside an hour a week. And that hour needs to be dedicated to, it could be research if you're a researcher, it could be going to the beach and looking at the ocean if you're someone who likes to ponder. It could be a conversation with someone. I always tell people, if you don't know someone who loves their work, go find one person and ask them their story, because you can get a lot of wisdom from other people's pain.
Hey friends, it's good to be with you. I'm Scott Shute, founder of Changing Work. And this is part of our Changing Work series where we're bringing you amazing people and topics with the spirit of changing work from the inside out, basically making the workplace a more humane and sane place to be. I'm super excited to welcome Laurel Donnellan. Hi, Laurel.
Hi, Scott. So nice to be with you.
Thanks for being here. Today we're talking about, our topic is soul search as you job search. And so just a little intro on Laurel. Laurel is a career satisfaction expert, a podcaster, and Forbes contributor. And she's combined her own experience as an executive and an entrepreneur with academic research and ancient wisdom to develop a change model that's helped thousands of people find lovable work and live happier lives. That's pretty good. So thanks for being with us.
It's fun work. I'm honored to do it and honored to be with you today.
Excellent. Well, let's get into it. And folks, if you're at home, if you're joining us on LinkedIn Live, feel free to ask questions along the way, throw them in the comments. But what are the stakes here, right? We're talking about people finding what exactly, and why is it important?
Well, I use the term soul work, which is the absolute best use of your passions and purpose. And I think a lot of people have given up on that, and that's created a lot of suffering. So we're about alleviating suffering, not only for the worker, but the family of the worker, the community of the worker. So the stakes are high.
Yeah, that sounds really high. One of the things I saw that you wrote was that one of your goals is to end work-related misery.
Yeah,
that's a big deal, right? There are a lot of people that are suffering. I think I read the latest Gallup survey said that only 22%, I think it was global workers, are engaged. I mean, to me, that's just a big bummer. Yeah. And so what do you see in the work that you do? Like, what do you see from clients?
Well, I think there's two sides of the coin here. There's finding work that you love, which is often a journey for an individual. It's the hero's journey, it's the life's journey. And then there's actually companies providing lovable work, because not everyone is meant to do their own business. I think that's a journey not for everyone. And I've worked with people who have had their own business and went into a bigger organization and found joy there. And I found people who were in big organizations, not unlike you, and founded a new company and find joy there. So I've dedicated my life to helping people find a process that can end up in very different places. I've worked with, for example, people that do the work and realize that their soul work is parenting. And we also have this concept of bridge work, right? So soul work is the absolute best way of using your passions and purpose. And of course, you need to know what your passions and purpose are. And then bridge work supports you in the soul work.
Okay, interesting. So would you think of it like a portfolio? So it doesn't have to be just the job I do, my 9 to 5, or maybe the thing I get paid for, but it's kind of a smattering of things that I can do, a portfolio to find this joy. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's some of us I just happen to be someone that sticks with the same thing for a long time, and I love that. And if it doesn't work, I'll just try again, try again, try again.
Yeah.
And there's other people who've been very successful about having a portfolio, and I think are better at changing hats and doing a lot of things at once. I've also seen people find happiness in what I call a serial career, right? So you have a chapter where you're super happy, and then you need to shift into something else and shift into something else. And of course, life and work is one big soup. So you have to think about the different relationships and the different hats you wear. And for some people, they can find their joy in volunteer work or parenting or, something that may not pay them, right? And then they have to figure out how to take care of their family and themselves with the economics. So absolutely, it can be a portfolio for sure.
I ran a poll a couple of days ago in preparation for this with kind of related questions. So let me share what we found, at least from people who are following me, which may be, not the same as the global workforce. 113 people responded. And so people who said work is super fulfilling, 33%. I thought that was very high, said work is super fulfilling. That's way more, I think, than the average on whole. 21% said they had no idea what their dream job would be, right? And 38% said they use non-work to find their joy. And so what's obvious to me, even if these scores, or these responses sound pretty good compared to average, it's still a big number of people who don't really know what that soul work or that joyful work would be, or they're trying to find it somewhere else. And so what are some of the basics? Like it's clear that there's a lot of people that don't really know how to do this. So what are some of the simple things that we can do to move our way towards this soul?
Yeah. For everyone out there that is, I would say, maybe curious about finding soul work, I want to assure you that you can. Whether you have a coach and work with me or find a book. I mean, I believe everyone can have and find soul work. I think the thing that people need to do is, even if you don't know what it is, not give up, right? And think of finding your soul work as your soul work until you know what it is. So there's lots of paths, there's lots of techniques, there's lots of things. But the first thing I would suggest to people is put aside an hour a week. And that hour needs to be dedicated to, it could be research if you're a researcher, it could be going to the beach and looking at the ocean if you're someone who likes to ponder. It could be a conversation with someone. I always tell people, if you don't know someone who loves their work, go find one person and ask them their story, because you can get a lot of wisdom from other people's pain or other people's stories.
Sure.
Really hard to not give up when you don't know anyone that loves their work.
Yeah, interesting. I was having a conversation with a young man who'd honestly clawed his way up from nothing. And we were talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And this young man he had struggled. He'd come from poverty. He'd come from his own homelessness, and now he's working in a tech job, and he's finally answering this question, or asking this question of himself, like, what do I want to do? Like, who could I be? What's my purpose in life? Do you think that, so let's talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this idea that if I don't have food and shelter, it's really hard to ask these questions. Do you think it's possible for someone in that situation, even us when we're there, to find this soul work?
I think it's a great question. I think I was thinking about that today on my walk before this. I have heard people's stories who have struggled financially and getting support who have found their soul work. And I've heard lots of stories of people who haven't struggled and have found their soul work, and vice versa. So my experience is I've worked with people. I mean, we even did a program at one point at Rikers for incarcerated men, who had lots of stories of struggle. My experience, which is, a slice of life, it's just a small slice of people, but it's a diverse group of people. I believe that no matter what your economic situation, spending a little bit of time pondering this question of what do I really want to do can help you. And, the question is different for everyone, but I think it can help in any situation.
That's an interesting, just asking the question is like an intention, right? Because if we're really stuck and we never even ask the question, then guess what? Nothing changes.
Yeah.
So asking the question is kind of like opening the door to possibility. Even if nothing happens in the beginning, it's the door opening. So starting from there, what do you think, if we talk about mindset, right? What is the mindset required to move from wherever I am to closer and closer to my soul work?
That's a beautiful question. And the first thing that comes up is just curiosity. And even people that have visions, I tell them not to hold on to them too tightly. Like you should, even if you have a vision, you should have open fists, because you have to collaborate, right? You have to collaborate with the economy, with if you're starting a business, you have to collaborate with having customers, you have to collaborate with your family. So curiosity works whether you have no idea, because you could be curious about, even when I work with high school students, I say at the end of this process, I want you to be able to answer two questions. What is your dream job? And how are you going to make that a reality?
It feels like the second part. Let's talk about the second part for a second. It feels like we're kind of working our way into a model here. Maybe, I'm not sure if that was our intention. It starts with a recognition of where I am and where I want to be. All right. And even asking the question, what do I love, opens the door. But then your second question of, okay, how are you going to make that happen? This implies action. And so then what is required there?
Yeah. So, when I first started this process, which was working with people, I think I was counting up the years. I think I've been doing this work for 25 years. And I love process, and I love vision, and I love helping people get into their hearts. And then I realized over these years that if I didn't help them create the reality, I was creating suffering. Because then you have a dream that you never reach, right? So first of all, you need commitment to, okay, if I'm going to create this dream, then I'm going to need to take action and maybe the dream changes, but action also needs to be, I want people to feel successful, right? So if you're starting with, all I know is I hate my job. I don't know anything else. I hate my job. I feel overwhelmed, whatever. Start there. And then you can just say, okay, I'm going to do something different this week, right? So if your vision is really cloudy and unfocused, just start with a little chunk of time.
Yeah.
And then as you get clarity, then you can create a longer term plan, right? So if you're someone like Scott Shute that created Changing Work, you're very clear about what you're creating. And so as you go, you can have, and your team needs longer range plans than a week, right? But if you're someone who has no idea, just start. You can even start with today, and congratulations for everyone who's here with us today, because you've taken an action.
That's true. That's true. So when let's tease this apart. I think this is gold. So even if I can spend 3 minutes or 5 minutes, what are some examples of what I might do in that 3 or 5 minutes? Like, especially if I'm starting from, I have no idea, right? 21% of my poll people said they have no idea what their dream
And
job
I
is.
actually love working with those people because it's like solving a mystery. It's so fun, right? So if you have 3 minutes, oh dear, my battery is running down. Sorry.
Uh-oh. It's okay. It's okay. You know, we've all been working at home or whatever for the last 3 years. So 100%, 100% of us on this call have been in exactly that situation where, we're doing something and then technology happens. So
Plugging into the wall is the sorry about that. Because this was a really good question. Is the question, if I have 3 minutes, what should I do?
Yeah, it just as an example, right? If I really don't have any idea, all I know is I hate my job. I have no idea what my dream job is. Laurel's asking me to spend 3 to 5 minutes doing something. Like, what does that even look like?
The first thing that came to mind is start with what you know, right? So and it may seem obscure and it may not seem like it's practical, but start with like 3 things I love, right? It could be, I love my husband, I love my church, I love gardening, right? And develop that list. Just, start that list. What do I love? What have I done in my past that maybe I haven't done in a long time that brings me joy? And
I think that's really. Oh, sorry, you go.
No, go. You go.
What I was going to say is, and you can continue the thread, but there's something really powerful of moving. I'm going to say moving our energy from I hate my job, I'm focused on what's wrong in my life, to just what is the list of stuff I like? What's the stuff I love? Because energetically, we move from I'm stuck and this is no good to actually there's a bunch of stuff in my life that's pretty good, or sometimes great, or sometimes amazing.
Yeah.
And energetically, it frees us. We're more creative when we focus on the light, gives us more strength to deal with the dark.
Yeah.
Right. So we start making this list and then maybe continue. Once I get my list, what are the types of things I might discover?
Absolutely. And I would also say, don't spend those 3 minutes wasting time. A lot of us spend time wasting time that brings us down, right? So think about the media that you're consuming, the people that you're around, the places that you go as either energy drainers or energy suppliers. Because it's really hard to be creative and visionary if you're watching the news all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you're sucked into watching, binge watching 5 episodes of whatever, Game of Thrones or whatever.
That's my big addiction. I spend too much time with streaming. But, and also people, like if you're hanging out with the people that also hate their jobs, you guys are just, having this conversation about hating jobs, go find someone, like I mentioned earlier, that loves their job and strike up a conversation with them.
Yeah. I came across a quote the other day. It was basically talking about self-enlightenment, or basically. And the writer said, every action, word, or thought either pollutes or purifies.
Beautiful.
Every action, word, or thought pollutes or purifies. Right? So it's kind of an inventory. If I find myself doing things or eating things or thinking things that aren't helping, that are, bringing me down, then what's the opposite of that? What are things I can think? What are things I can do? What are people I can hang out with? I love that idea. Let's see. There's some comments. I don't know about questions. If you have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat here. Yeah, Harvey says, many people don't really know themselves. They're living for other people's expectations. Yeah, so what advice would you have for those of us that are pleasers? We don't even know who we are, right? We're just living for other people. How do we even start to think about ourselves in that one?
I can identify with this. I think that's a lifelong journey. It's not something that we're going to fix today. And I think you can ask yourself the question of, how can I become of service rather than of pleasing? Because
how can
pleasing.
I'm going to repeat that. How can I become of service rather than pleasing? Because sometimes we get those words mixed up. Yeah.
I think true service benefits the server.
Yeah.
And pleasing often, I love the question, separates us from who we are.
Yeah.
So in a way, I'm asking you to be selfish, to focus on yourself and get to know yourself. And that is counter to the way a lot of us were brought up. But I think the journey to purpose, the journey to calling, can find you serving in new ways. And I think it's also either energizing or draining, right?
Right. And there's something about that which sometimes some people think about. When I'm developing myself, when I'm focused on me, it feels selfish. But actually, the rest of us, need you to develop to be able to serve. I think we might have lost Laurel. Well, we're going to keep going here. Friends, what questions do you... Oh, Laurel, are you there?
I'm so sorry.
You're good.
I don't even know what's going on here.
See, that's how a lot of these people find themselves.
Is an opportunity for me to love myself, even though things aren't working so perfectly.
Exactly. Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, we can hear you just fine. So we're going to roll with that. Okay. So let's see. Let me recap where I think we've been. I love what you said about, there you are. Now we see you. I love what you said about anybody. Anybody can do this. Right. And it starts with just asking the question, what do I really want? Thinking about the things I really love, spending more time there. It's kind of that old axiom, energy flows where attention goes. Right. And then this movement of, when I develop myself, I become more capable of serving the whole. And this is really counterintuitive, because oftentimes people think when they are serving themselves, it's selfish. But actually, when we develop and we are of service of others, this is actually the path to our own personal happiness. So it's powerful work. Let's see. All right, friends, other questions you have for Laurel? We have about 5 minutes left. Or now that we can see you again, Laurel.
I'm so sorry. I really don't know what's going on here, but I'm asking the universe to help me. Okay.
It's
so I love the conversation we're in.
Actually, this is an important point. I have no idea what's going on here, right? We talk about mindset and humility. Humility is a beautiful pathway towards creativity, right? Because when we think we know everything, right? When we're stuck in a job and we're like, oh, my job sucks, there's no way out, there's no blah, 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 then we're not creative. But, and I know you didn't quite mean it this way, but when I say, I have no idea what's going on here, but I'm going to point my energy towards something positive, then we start creating.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Glenn says, among other things, look back in your life when you did things for others, which were meaningful and also which were tedious. And I think this gives us a good kind of filter for the ways that we like to serve.
Yeah. I think the calling is in the energy, right? So there's lots of things that we have to do in our lives that may not be our calling, but are necessary. And then there's other things that are juicier, that give us energy back, that we wouldn't delegate if we could. Mm-hmm. And that will give us clues. And definitely looking back is important to that, because you'll find clues of what works and what doesn't.
When you think about your most successful case studies, clients, however you think about them, what were the qualities that those people had that got them from A to B?
That's such a great question. No one's ever asked me that before. I think willingness to do deep work, willingness to be uncomfortable, willingness to ask and answer hard questions, willingness to get help. I think, as a Western society, our process for finding and following a calling is often like sitting in Starbucks and doing our resume by ourselves. And Indigenous people know that finding your place in the tribe has to do with community and connecting to others and asking for help. So
that's really important. I mean, I sometimes talk about mindfulness, and for a lot of people it means, meditation or whatever. But actually what you described, this willingness to do the hard work, but a willingness to see things as they are, right? This is where we start. It's this humility again. It's like, I see things for what they are, and then I'm willing to do the work myself, to do the hard work, both internally and to seek out the help to make it happen.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful.
I think one of the things people ask me a lot about is money. And they have this mindset that if they do what they love, the money won't follow. And I've worked with lots of clients that end up making less money and they're happier. I've worked with more clients who end up making more money, but it may take a long time to make more money. Like if you are if you're an engineer and you want to be a veterinarian, there's a lot of education involved.
Yeah.
And so that may be a long road, right? If you're someone that has, maybe you're a lawyer and you're not happy with the mission of your law firm, but you go and you love the law, you can go and be a general counsel for a not-for-profit that is aligned with what you love. So some changes are long transitions, some are short, some will make you more money, some will make you less. I do believe that taking care of yourself and your family financially needs to be part of the reality that you look at.
Yeah, that's right. And no matter what, I think once we start asking these questions, we're on a journey towards more happiness, right? We're on a journey away from being stuck in whatever it is towards more happiness, whether it's more money or less money, but doing the things we love. We find that we're going to be happier regardless of, the income, as long as our basic needs are met. Well, this has been fantastic. Laurel, if folks want to work with you, what does that look like? Where can they find you? What would they do next?
Yeah. Well, they can go to our website. We have a little banner here that it's compassionateleaderscircle.com. And we have ways for people to work online on demand that are very affordable. And we also have coaches that work with people individually. The program that we talked a little bit about today is called Dream Lab. So look for the information around Dream Lab.
Dream Labs. Actually, just tell us a little bit. Is it time bound? What is a Dream Lab?
A dream lab is looking at your past, your present, and developing your future in a very deep and comprehensive way. You can do it with a coach and do it in a way that meets your timeline. You know, some people take a year to do it. Some people take 14 weeks to do it. We also have a self-paced online version that you can do on your own with little videos from me along the way.
Oh, and I see we have a coupon code for our listeners and watchers here. It's if you use the code CW10, you get 10% off.
That's right.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
Anything else you want to share with our crew before we sign off here?
No, it was an honor being with you. I love talking to you anytime, and it was great to talk about this topic. And people can also, find me on our website and write me questions if you have additional questions.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for your generosity, and thank you for the work that you're doing. It is so needed in our world today, with 22% of worldwide workers feeling engaged at work. So thank you, Laurel.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Yana,
friends, go ahead. And friends, thank you. Thank you for being here. This is Changing Work. You can follow us on LinkedIn, or you can find us at changingwork.org, and help us join in. Go be an ambassador for Changing Work. We're trying to change work from the inside out. I'm Scott Shute. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time. Take care, my friend.